Welcome to me finally talking about the Pacific Crest Trail. I brought champagne, of course. So if you don't know, the Pacific Crest Trail, or PCT, is a 2,650-mile trail. You start at the border of California and Mexico, and you hike to Canada. It takes an average of 5 months, and for me personally, it took 139 days. I started on April 29th of this year, and I completed it on September 13th of this year. We're just going to dive right in. I did my best to go through the questions that you guys asked and consolidate them so I could answer the most commonly asked questions. Was I a part of a tramily? So a tramily, or a trail family, is basically a group of people who ends up liking each other enough to hike together and camp together and spend all their time together and take their zeros together and do all of that. And I did end up being a part of, I would say, multiple tramilies. There was a main core group that I fell into around mile 300 or 400, Mission Creek. I don't actually remember what mile that is, but I got in with them because Mission Creek was washed out and everyone was kind of sticking together for safety. And I stayed with them. There was, at one point, I think 10 of us. It ended up being quite a large group. And I stayed with them till Kearsarge Pass in the Sierras, which I think was around mile 800. And basically we ended up splitting up because there was smoke and things like that. So a lot of them skipped ahead to get around the smoke. And I decided to keep hiking and ended up with another amazing person who was a part of the trail family. And she also didn't want to skip. So we ended up hiking the rest of the trail together. And it was me and her for a while. We kind of bounced around and absorbed into other tramilies. And then we met another amazing person named Gazelle, and she joined us. And then it was me, Gazelle, and Slam Dunk for over 1,000 miles. It was a really long time, and it was kind of the three of us. We finished the trail together, which was really awesome. And I didn't go into the trail thinking that I would be a part of a tramily. I thought it was definitely going to be much more of a solo endeavor. But I'm really grateful, and I feel like the people on the trail made the hike so much better than it ever could have been alone. What was the hardest part of the trail that I didn't expect? I would honestly say mentally, more so than physically. Physically, it was obviously very difficult and everything like that, but it was the mental stress of every day. It was the most structure I've had in my life in years, and I'm not really sure I liked that all of the time. It was basically waking up, packing up camp, hiking all day, getting to camp, setting up camp, eating dinner, going to bed, and repeating that over and over and over again. And just the mental ability to keep yourself occupied and motivated and to not kind of lose hope. And I mean, just the sheer amount of boredom I experienced on the trail was not something I expected, because I figured it was so physically demanding and so many things that it would keep me very occupied, but it can be very boring at times, which I think is why having a tramily is so important, because the people in many ways become your entertainment, especially when you're out of service for a very long time, like in the Sierras. So I think if you ever think about doing a thru hike, maybe this was just me, but there was a lot of time that I was just kind of bored. Do I have any regrets? I do. Not taking as many pictures and videos. One of the reasons I didn't film a lot on my hike was because being a part of a trail family and stuff like that, and just hiking with other people, not everybody wants to be on the internet, and I really get that and I respect that. So I think I just didn't film as much because I was trying to be in the moment with the people I was with. And you know, I'm the kind of person that I think if someone doesn't already have a social media footprint, I don't really feel comfortable putting them on my channel as much, just because I think that's it's a big choice and it's a big decision to put yourself on the internet. So I didn't want to do that with the people I was hiking with. My regret, not filming or anything like that, but I think because I had that in my mind, I didn't take as many pictures with people. I didn't film as many videos with people that I could just have for myself. And I really regret that looking back. I wish I had taken more pictures. I think this is a very common thing. I wish I had taken more pictures with the people I met. I wish I had kind of recorded more things about the trail in the moment. I tried journaling in the beginning, and I think my last journal entry was in July, and I was still on trail for another 2 months, so I kind of gave up on that. But I think not documenting it more, while those memories are in my head, and it's really special, and I'm really glad that I took the time to really just be in the moment on the trail and with the people. Sometimes it's nice to have pictures to look back on, and I feel like I don't have as much of that. That's something I would probably do different when I do another thru hike. Spoiler. How do you think this experience changed you mentally? Honestly, I don't think well. I've really been struggling with, they call it post-trail depression, and it was talked about on trail, and I thought it was really funny because I was like, why would anyone be depressed once they leave the trail? I can't wait to be done. And then I finished and I got back, and I don't know, there was just this overwhelming sense of emptiness and loss. I think it's that feeling of when you have this goal and you've had it for so long and you've worked so hard for it day after day after day. And it's almost like that goal was giving you such a purpose that once it's gone, I feel so empty. And I'm still struggling with it. It's been about a month since I got off trail, and I still every day struggle with kind of getting out of bed because I don't have a goal anymore, it feels like, and that's been really difficult. I've been spending a lot of time with my friends Madeline and Julia from van life and YouTube and everything like that, and that really helped me because I started making plans and I started kind of having these goals, and I'm going to start traveling again, and I'm going to, go back west and everything like that. But that sharp contrast between being on trail to being on the East Coast was very dramatic, and it, I don't think, helped me mentally as much as I thought it would. If anything, it just made me realize that I need more goals and I need more purpose and I need to accomplish more and I need to do bigger things and better things. And I don't know, I guess it gave me a sense of my life not being good enough, which I don't think is true actually, but that's just where I am mentally. So that is something that I've kind of just been struggling with and working through, and it's getting better, but it's still present every day. How many miles per day did you average, and how many hours per day did you hike? So this changed throughout the hike. I think of the Pacific Crest Trail as being in 5 sections because on the Far Out app, there's 5 maps. So there's Southern California, there's the Sierras, there's NorCal, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. So I would say through the Southern California and the Sierras, I averaged 18 to 22 miles a day. And in Northern California, I'd say we started averaging 25 to 30 miles more so, around 28, 27 was kind of where we were trying to hit. And Oregon was honestly 30 around, maybe more. We were kind of trying to hit over 30 a lot of the times, or 30 in general. It was long, but I would say on average, you probably ended up hiking 12 hours a day. Oh, this actually ties right into the last question. What was my favorite section? Southern California. I loved Southern California. I spent the rest of the trail romanticizing Southern California, which I don't actually think in retrospect was that great. It was extremely hot, blistering. It was like hiking, taking, breaks between 12 and 2 because you couldn't hike because it was so hot. It was sweating. It was disgusting. But at the same time, everyone was happy. It was like the honeymoon phase of the trail, like the honeymoon phase of a relationship. Everyone was happy and excited and motivated. And it was almost like Canada was so far away that you were just enjoying the moment, which was beautiful. I missed it so much the rest of the trail. Once we got, the mountain views were incredible and the views got better as we got along, but the spirit and the sense of hope and optimism that people had in the beginning of the trail, that I had in the beginning of the trail, very much dwindled. A lot more people started leaving. Tahoe was a big place that a lot of people dropped off the trail because they hit that 1,000 miles and they left. So it started getting more sparse on trail. People that you'd started hiking in the beginning were going home. You were losing friends. There was more of a sense of hopelessness as the trail went on. And it made me really, really romanticize Southern California, which I don't think was actually that good, but in my brain, it was the best. How did forest fires impact your hike? They were a big impact. They were the biggest impact. Actually, snow was not an issue this year at all. There was barely any snow. Even by the time I got to the Sierras, I didn't use spikes the entire trail. Snow was not an issue, but forest fires were a huge issue and closed hundreds of miles of trail. So I actually ended up having to go around basically I think it was 300 to 400 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail, which just were not open and were not accessible to do because of the timing. A lot of people were able to get through the park fire closure because they were ahead of me. But by the time I got to that point, there was 109 miles of the trail that were just closed. And I know some people choose to hike through that. I personally think that, there's people fighting and resources being used and firefighters and everything like that. And you just don't want to become someone that might have to get rescued and divert those resources away from people who actually need it and the communities who actually need it. So I kind of decided that my Pacific Crest Trail journey was going to be doing every open and available mile that I could do. And that's what I did do. And I will go back probably next year and finish those few hundred miles that I had to miss in California and Washington mostly. It's hard, and I'm glad I did it this year because who knows how much worse it's going to be. So if you do end up deciding to do this trail, just know that there's a chance you're going to have to do detours and road walks and skip sections because they're closed, and it's kind of just all part of this experience. Was there a moment where you thought you might not finish it? Honestly, no. Even when I was bored, even when I was miserable, even when I was everything, even when Canada felt so far away and like it could never happen, I never actually really gave up because, to be honest, I told all of you guys that I was going to do it. And if there's one thing about me, it's really that I am stubborn. And so I was not going to give up because I had told the internet that I was doing this hike, so I was going to do this hike. And that was a great motivator to keep me going. So thank you. Did you listen to anything while you hiked? Oh my gosh, yes. So the beginning of the hike, I would say I definitely spent a lot more time in silence, and there was a lot of time spent thinking and processing and working through a lot of issues. But as the trail went on, music became essential, and honestly, YouTube became essential. I listened to so many YouTube videos through this hike. You know, Kari Can Read, Mike's Mike, H.T. Hayes, Swiftologist, just on and on and on, just hours and hours of constant stimulation. I needed to always be listening to something. It was the only thing that got me through the day. I would download, because I have YouTube Premium, so I would download like 100 YouTube videos before I'd go back out of service, because I would always download a bunch of stuff in town, and then when I was out of service, my phone would be on airplane mode to conserve battery. So I would just listen, basically. I'd have my screen closed and I would just listen to these YouTube videos while I hiked. Just hours of content. I know so much about the most random topics because I decided that that was my entertainment, and it did work, and it mostly kept me pretty interested on trail, which was very important. But I definitely, honestly, by Northern California, I could not really hike in silence. I was just going a little crazy. So music and podcasts and YouTube and everything was essential for keeping me sane. I could go into all the gear I brought, like every piece of clothing, but I feel like that's a lot. Basically, I carried a Osprey EJA 58 liters the entire way, which remained in honestly pretty good condition. I'm quite impressed, and I really liked it. A lot of people did the ultralight frameless packs, but I decided in the beginning that I knew I wanted a frame pack because I am not ultralight, and with a framed pack you can better distribute the weight, so it's a more comfortable carry. So for my sleeping bag, I actually ended up going with a quilt made by Feathered Friends in Seattle. I loved this quilt. It was a 20-degree one, and what I loved is if you cinched the foot box and you could zip it all the way up, and it would basically convert to a mummy sleeping bag, so you didn't have to deal with all the straps and things that other quilts have. I love this sleeping bag. It kept me warm. It was durable. It got like one hole in it. Best piece of gear I have ever purchased, which is good because it was expensive. My sleeping pad I don't have anymore because I threw out when I got off trail, but I just used the Thermarest basic foam pad. I didn't have an inflatable pad or anything like that because I have had very bad luck with inflatable pads, and typically they always get a hole. So while the foam pad was not as comfortable, if you are a stomach or a back sleeper, you'll basically be fine on it, and I just didn't want to risk, waking up in the middle of the night to my pad deflating. For my tent, I went with the freestanding. I did the Big Agnes Tiger Wall 2-person tent. I went with the 2-person tent because I wanted space in the tent to have my stuff. I didn't want to feel like it was a coffin. I wanted to be able to feel like it was my home and I had space to stretch out and relax, because you do end up spending a lot of time in the tent. And I mostly really liked this tent. I didn't love it. How did your body change during the hike? More than I thought it would. So my feet, I actually started this hike with a size 5.5 shoe, but I went up to a 6 to begin with just so that my feet had room to swell in the beginning. And I ended the trail at a size 7.5 shoe, and now I'm about at a 7. So my feet basically increased a full shoe size on this trail, which is pretty crazy. And it's not that my feet are growing bigger, it's that they're flattening and they're widening, so it just needs more space in the shoe. Some people's feet go back to their original size, and some people's feet are forever changed, so we shall see. I also did end up losing 16 pounds. I started the trail at 124 pounds, and when I got off trail, I was down to 108 pounds when I got home. So I did end up losing weight, which I could definitely tell. It's been about a month since I got off trail, so I have gained a little bit of weight back, and I'm up to 115, which feels a lot healthier. But besides that, it was kind of the normal thing, is I got, a lot of blisters and calluses on my feet. I'm in the process of losing a toenail, which is really fun. I got terrible tan lines on my hands and my sock tan line and things like that. I went through 3 pairs of shoes on trail, which was not bad. I used the brand La Sportiva, which I did like because I think they lasted longer than a lot of the other brands like Hoka's or Lone Peaks, but I didn't like because I felt like they didn't give my feet enough room to breathe. But I also, by the time I had thought about changing shoes, I was so far into the hike that I figured if I changed shoes, I would just get new blisters. So I decided to just push through with the shoes I had. What surprised you the most about trail life? I think this goes back to what I was talking about with the tramley, but kind of to expand on it, it was just the amount of people on trail and off trail that would always be willing to just help you. I mean, complete strangers, trail angels, we call them. They would show up with food and drinks, and they would, give you rides into town. I hitchhiked so much on trail. I got so good at hitchhiking, and these people would just pick you up and give you a ride into town, or, they'd show up to a place where the trail crosses a road, and they'd have sodas and candy and food and snacks and burgers and fries, and it was all of these people who you didn't know, who just out of the goodness of their heart showed up to bring a little joy to your day. And also the same with the people hiking on trail. I mean, they were all willing to help you out. If you were running low on food, someone would give you more food. If it was a huge community effort. And I think that sense of community that comes with through hiking and trail life in general was really surprising to me, and I wasn't expecting it. And I think it's one of the best parts of the trail and something that I'm going to really value, and it definitely restored my faith in humanity. What advice would you give someone wanting to do the PCT? Just do it. I mean, it's not good advice. I don't know if I'm really the one to go to for advice when it comes to that, because for me it was such on a whim and kind of a choice I just made. But maybe that's the way to do it. I didn't have time to think about it and obsess over it and plan it for years. I just decided I was going to do it, and I made it happen. And I know that people have a lot more going on in their lives than I do, and people have families and jobs and homes and apartments and rent and bills and everything like that. So it is a lot easier for me, and I recognize that. And I really appreciate that I get to have this lifestyle and income that I can just go off and do things like that. But if it's something that you really want to do and it's something you dream about, you just have to do it. The hardest part is starting. And don't worry about the physical part of it, because the trail will get you in shape. You can start off, and as long as you take it slow in the beginning and don't go fast and don't get stress injuries, the trail will get you in shape. So you don't really need to prepare that much for it ahead of time, unless you're going for, a fastest known time or something like that, or you want to finish in sub 100 days, then prepare ahead of time. But yeah, I don't know. The best advice I have is just don't overthink it. Don't psych yourself out. Just, if it's something you want, you'll do it. And if it's not, that's okay too, because I don't really know why so many people do it. Did I ever get a trail name? So when I did my live stream, which I think was month 1 or something, I had not gotten a trail name by that point, and I actually didn't end up getting one till Washington, but I did get one. So the thing with trail names is you don't have to accept the trail name people give you, and I turned down about 5 of them. So I turned down Showbiz, Rabbit, Voldemort, Satan, Diablo, Shark. There's actually quite a few that I turned down. And it wasn't until Washington that I did end up accepting one from Quartertank. And my trail name is AB, which stands for A Bitch, which is probably not the nicest one, but, I think it was fitting for the way I got it. And the way I got it is just going to be something for me. Oh, and if you don't know, trail names are basically what people call you on trail. So it replaces your real name. So there's a lot of people I met on trail who I don't actually know their real name. I only know the name they went by on trail. I spoiled this at the beginning, but would you do another through hike? I'm already planning it. For all I complained and all I was miserable, and now that I'm depressed and everything after the trail, for everything that the through hike damaged in my life, there's such a high when it comes to it. It's the easiest I've ever made friends. It's some of the best people I've ever met in my life, and I want that feeling again. I could never understand why people did through hikes over and over again. I never got it till I did one, and I get it now, and I will be doing another one. Continental Divide Trail, you are next. I have plans, and I will do the Appalachian Trail if I have to do it. I'm planning on other countries. I'm looking at hikes I can do in those countries, maybe ones that are a little less long and a little less time consuming, but I'm hooked. I love it. The community, the culture, the people, the physical activity, the goals, just everything about it. It's kind of, as much as I've complained to so many people in my life about that trail, doing that trail is one of the best decisions I ever made. So if you're ever on the fence about whether or not you want to do a thru hike or whether or not it's worth it or anything like that, it changed my life. And who knows in the long run if it's for the good, but I'll always be grateful I did it.